Spider-Man Hostile Takeover, Chapter 27. It was strange to be back at the Bugle. While he was in high school, this place had been like a second home to him, a sort of refuge. He was a kid, accepted by adults, and extraordinary adults at that. People who were taking risks and defying the odds to get at the truth. They did it because it was good and right, and because they were ambitious and driven and addicted to the adrenaline rush of danger and deadlines. They fueled themselves with burnt coffees and stale donuts, and street niches grabbed on the run. Granted, Peter had been doing similar stuff as Spider-Man, but these people were doing it with words and insight and persistence. They didn't have any special powers randomly granted by the universe. They relied on their own grit and determination. He was happy to say hello to everyone on the way in. Ben Urich, Betty Brant, Robbie Robertson. It was great to see all of them again. At one point, he passed a group of reporters gathered around a computer that was playing a live broadcast of Jameson's new radio show. They all seemed to find it hilarious. Finally, he met up with MJ by her cubicle. "I've told everyone I'm helping you with the project for your work," she said. "So keep your voice down. I don't want Mr. Robertson to know I'm doing research that has anything to do with Fisk." Peter had his own concerns about that, but he had no desire to restart the argument. For now, they were focused on the woman who had been of such interest to the Roxxon operatives. They had a photograph of her, and they knew her address. And that was it. Based on that information, however, they were able to establish her identity as Laura Rimsey. Nothing else of interest came up about her. She had no discoverable ties to Roxxon, or to Fisk, or to anyone else either Peter or MJ could identify. Sitting in front of her monitor, they dug around for another half an hour, but came up with nothing. "I don't get it," Peter said. "She seems perfectly ordinary. She's got troubles, but so do a lot of people. There's no reason she'd be of interest to Fisk." "What if she isn't?" MJ proposed. "What if it's someone she's close to?" She let her fingers dance along her keyboard for a few minutes. And then she slapped her hand down on the desk. "And there it is. Her brother is an assistant district attorney. I guess it would be embarrassing for a DA to have a sister with a substance abuse problem. But that's not exactly something you could use to twist a guy around your little finger." "Maybe," MJ said. "But Fisk has always relied heavily on extortion. It could be that this combined with something else we don't know about is a powerful enough incentive for this DA to play ball. We know he wants to control people inside law enforcement." "Okay, this is useful," he said, making note of the assistant DA's information. "Thanks. I've also been doing some digging on Fisk's assistant, Maya Lopez. It's all very interesting." She handed Peter a file. "It looks like her father was some kind of operator. First for an organization out west, then for Fisk. Maybe with Fisk might be more accurate. They seem to have cooperated on a number of occasions, but they had a falling out. Police suspected, though they can never prove, that Fisk and Lopez killed after a shipment of guns was seized by ATF. Fisk might have thought Lopez was cooperating with the feds. Interesting that he took the guy's daughter in. Especially since she's deaf," MJ said. "He isn't exactly known for assisting people out of the goodness of his heart. If he helps someone, it's because he expects to get something out of it. Helping the child of someone who set out to betray him is pretty unexpected." "Deaf," Peter said, and he snapped his fingers. That explains why she didn't respond to anything I said. Yeah, from what I could see, she can read lips, MJ said. Your mask is going to be a problem if you run into her again. Peter began to leaf through the file. I remember this murder, he said. I was just starting out, and I showed up at the crime scene thinking. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. But I was 15 years old, and I figured I could help the cops or something. It was a disaster. Half of them wanted to arrest me, so I took off. But word of my being there got around. Jameson tried to float the idea that I killed a man and had been spotted at the scene, even though I didn't show up until an hour after the cops. That may have been the first time he started going after me. Not that any of that matters. I'm not too sure, MJ said. Lopez worked for Fisk. His daughter works for Fisk. You first encountered the impersonator at a Fisk construction site. Now Jameson is trying to pass off the impersonator as the real thing? What does Jameson have to do with it? The company that owns his radio station made some bad investments. Fisk bailed them out. But he got a controlling interest. Peter shook his head and whistled. Even so, I don't think Jameson would do that sort of thing for money, let alone dirty money. No, but he might not know where the money is coming from. Or he may think he's above it all. Maybe, Peter said. Though it wouldn't surprise me if he was planning an expose of the people who pay him. As much as he can be a pain in the ass, Jonah is a straight shooter at heart. Spider-Man notwithstanding. In the meantime, none of this points to a larger goal. Fisk is working on something that's supposed to make him too big to prosecute. There's one more thing, MJ said. She pulled up a photograph of a spear. Peter knew it all too well. Since he'd been looking at the business end of it just recently. I can't prove for sure that this is the same weapon in your picture, she said. But it sure looks like it could be. It was stolen from a private collector about 15 years ago. Lopez's father was implicated but was never charged. There were later pictures of a similar spear in New York home. That doesn't seem like a big deal, Peter said. Maybe he hid it somewhere. But if it was in his possession, it's not so strange it ended up with his daughter. It gets strange, though, MJ continued. Because Lopez was stabbed to death with a spear in his own home. It was missing from its display case and never recovered. So Maya Lopez was fighting me with the same weapon that was used to kill her father? Peter asked. That's what it looks like, MJ said. Either she's cold as ice, or she doesn't know. Peter found the second option more likely. Maya Lopez had fought with passion, but he hadn't had the sense that she was cruel. She blamed him for her father's death, and that meant the spear was a memento, not a trophy. Let's get back to Fisk, he suggested. I still don't see his endgame in all this. Fisk's processes are expensive, not linear, she said. He isn't chasing a single shiny object. He thinks in complex patterns. That means whatever we're looking at is only part of that pattern. I hate to say it, Peter, but I think you may be giving yourself too much credit. You're asking, what does Fisk gain if people hate Spider-Man? It's more likely he'd ask himself, what are the scenarios I need to succeed? And just one of them is having a population angry with Spider-Man. She smiled and tilted her head. I haven't crushed your ego, have I? I may recover. In time, Peter said distractedly. But keep on crushing, because I like your metaphor. It's like a big spider web. And if you pull on one thread, you can see what else moves. That wasn't really my metaphor at all, she said. And it may bring us back to the subject of her ego. You're brilliant, he said, standing up and giving her a quick kiss. Your insightful questions have allowed me to solve the case. Okay, not really, but I do think I have a new angle to work. I'll call you later. A thread in the carpet works just as well, she called after him. Just saying. On his way out, Peter passed a group of reporters who were talking about a story that had just come in. Spider-Man had chased off a mugger and then made off with the victim's wallet. Can you believe we used to think that guy was a hero? One of them asked. When he got out of the street, he took out his phone and called Yuri Watanabe. Did we ever find out anything about Andy, the victim from the cruise terminal? He asked her. She told him to hold on, so she could go somewhere private. She had to be careful when discussing anything that involved Fisk. Peter listened for a few minutes to the distant sounds of a police precinct before she was free to talk. Nothing much, she said. His record is fairly long, but not remarkable. A lot of petty crime. Breaking and entering mainly. Nothing violent. It's just a hunch, he said. But can you maybe dig a little deeper? I have a feeling there's something there. We don't have a whole lot of leads, so I want to make sure we exhaust everything we've got. That night, he said his brother was shady. Maybe look there? Okay, I'll give it a shot, she said. Anything else? Yeah, he said. I need a home address for someone, and you're not going to like it. He didn't want to break into the East Side apartment. That seemed like a bad idea for a guy who was supposed to be doing heroic things. On the other hand, he couldn't just ring the bell and hope to get buzzed in. Showing up at the window while the guy was watching TV would be just as bad. So he picked a compromise. He opened the unlocked window, waited on the outside ledge. But he didn't enter. He was, in a sense, already there. But he hadn't gone inside. So he hoped that he'd come across as more respectful and less creepy. After a while, the front door opened. The man entered his apartment, put down some groceries, and hung his plastic-wrapped dry cleaning in a closet. He then went into the bathroom and peed with the door open. Spider-Man grimaced beneath the mask and turned away. This wasn't helping with the creep factor. At least, he thought, it was only peeing. After the man emerged, he entered his living room and turned on his television. Noticing a shadow on the floor, he looked up at the window and gasped. Hey, Spider-Man said with a friendly wave. You have a minute? Assistant Director Attorney Abe Ramsey took a step back. He then pointed with the TV remote. The web-slinger held up his hands. Is this a bad time, Mr. Ramsey? I could come back. I have zero problem with making an appointment. Ramsey blinked a few times, then hit the mute button. What do you want? First of all, for you not to freak out, Spider-Man replied. That's definitely on the top of my list. And to talk. I've been waiting here for you, but I didn't want to actually come inside without being invited. I guess that sort of makes me like a vampire, or a polite person. Hopefully you'll go with the second option. Were you watching me pee? No, Peter said quickly. I turned away, but I may have heard some splashing. Ramsey sighed and then waved him in. You seem like the real one. So you know the other one is an imposter? Spider-Man asked as he stepped inside. There's no official word, Ramsey said. But it's pretty obvious to me. The other guy's a jerk, He doesn't sound like you, and he doesn't make stupid jokes. Besides, the lines on his suits are too close together. Exactly! You're very observant. Ramsey laughed and he shook his head. Honestly, I'm kind of a fan. And I'm a fan of hard-working public servants. Guess that makes us a couple of mutual admirers. Ramsey looked at him. So, there was something you wanted to talk about? He raised an eyebrow. One of the cases I'm working on. I'm not sure I can. No, I'm afraid that's not it, Spider-Man replied. You have a sister named Laura Ramsey? The DA looked stricken. Is she... Did something happen? No, everything's fine, as far as I know, the web-slinger said hurriedly. I don't want to give you too many details, but I was following some guys, and this one took photos of your sister as she went about her business and, did things. She's using it again, the DA asked, sounding as if he was bracing himself. He knows, Spider-Man nodded. I was afraid of that, Ramsey sighed. Okay, well, I can try to get her help. My niece has stayed with me before, so I can make it work. Do you have any idea why someone would want this information? Do you know who's behind it? Peter grimaced under his mask. You don't want to tell me, Ramsey said. I get it. You don't know if I'm compromised or not. So I'll shoot straight with you. He paused and looked like he was gathering his thoughts. You want to know if someone came to me and said, do this or we'll expose your sister. Would I roll over? I guess that's the question. The answer is no, Ramsey said. My sister has a problem. She's been dealing with it for years, and she's been in rehab once already. Obviously, this is all stuff we'd rather keep private. But we're not talking about classified information here. It's not like I break the law or risk my career to hide something from her friends, and our family already know. Then why take the photos? Peter asked. Again, no specifics. But the guys doing the work don't come cheap. A gentle vibration indicated an incoming call, but he ignored it. That's how it's done, Ramsey said. It's like asking a gold prospector why he doesn't just go to where the gold is, instead of working a bunch of bad claims first. You collect everything you can and see what's of use. My sister got photographed, and the photograph is now raw intel. Someone will go through all that raw intel and decide what's worth using. A little further research will prove it's not worth much. That it can't be used to make me turn. If you hadn't seen it go down, we'd never know what happened. But Wilson Fisk won't get anything he can use on me. I never said it was Fisk. Come on, Ramsey said. Extortion has always been his go-to plan. And who else would have the means or the desire to spend God knows how much just to collect heaps of raw data? He gave a wry grin. Besides, everyone knows you have a bug up your ass about Fisk. Because I'm delicate, I prefer a bee in my bonnet, Spider-Man said. But both are accurate. Any idea what he's after? Not a clue, Ramsey said. But check this out. I recorded it the other morning, and it's been bothering me ever since. He picked up the TV remote and began searching through the DVR for a clip. After a minute, he hit play and unmuted it. On the screen, Norman Osborn came out of City Hall. Reporters shouted questions at him, and he gave off a stream of non-committal answers until someone asked about the city's cozy relationship with business interests. The mayor stopped in his tracks. I object to the word cozy, Osborn said. It suggests something improper. The city was built on a business, and when business does well, people do well. If anything, there is a new wave of civic-minded business in this town we need to encourage. People like Wilson Fisk, who find out new ways to make money while helping out workers and families and ordinary people. I don't want to hide that. I want to encourage it. Ramsey paused the feed. Osborne is going out of his way to praise Fisk. It feels like we're being softened up. For what? Ramsey shook his head. No idea. But if Fisk is involved, it'll be bad.